All right, hello everybody, and welcome to the Frantic Talks podcast. I don't even know what episode we're on. It's like 82, I think. 81, 82. Do you know?
80-something.
Okay, 80. It's in the 80s. I can guarantee that. I am your host, Frantic. With me, but not usually, as always, is my lovely co-host,
Freakshow.
And we are here to talk about wrestling. And that's it. So, we'll go over that here in a second. Grunt cannot join us today. We're actually not even live on our normal time due to more scheduling stuff. We've had some crazy past couple weeks. Freak Show and Grunt hosted the last podcast. Next week when Grunt comes back, I won't be here again. They might get another one live. It'll be a while before you see me and Grunt in the same room, apparently. But anyways,
you guys were never technically in the same room.
Okay, we're in the same screen at the same time. Anyways, let's go over the quick rundown of where you can find us, and we'll get to the fun topic today. We're doing something very off the walls. Like I said, it's going to be talking about professional wrestling. We'll get there in a minute. But anyways, if you want to continue the conversation, give your opinion on this podcast. Let us know how you think we did. Give us your own opinions, anything like that. You can head over to Twitter. That is the easiest way to get a hold of us. I am at FranticJ3. He is at FreakShow187, right?
Yeah.
I almost said at Onyx Spartan, which is Grunt, ONYX Spartan. It's really hard to break your tradition 80 episodes in a row and say, oh, it's
right
this guy.
Yeah.
And we are at Frantic_Talks, which is up there, hidden in the logo, lovely, all that. You can follow us, get all the updates on podcasts, articles, all the like, and have conversations with us about the random things we tend to tweet about, whether it's puns, wrestling, magic, gaming, whatever. You can also head over to twitch.tv/Frantic Talks, all one word. That is where you will find this podcast live, usually every Saturday, usually at 3 p.m. Eastern, usually. All those usuallys, just because life gets in the way. We don't always go live then. But give us a follow. You can join in on the conversation, typically get a shout out, all that fun stuff. And also head over to frantictalks.com. Find all the things I mentioned just now in the footer, along with other links to like DVRs, our YouTube channel where you can find the archive podcast, the Facebook page, all that fun stuff. And of course, frantictalks.com is also where you can find all the fun articles, podcasts, and stuff we tend to post. Every Monday we usually throw out the podcast. Wednesday is a weekly column written by either me, Grunt, or Freak Show. And then Friday we swap off on Frantic vs. Freak Show, a wrestling booking challenge where we try to book the same roster to a better show, and Chronicles of It All, which is finally returned now that Freak Show has a laptop, where he books another wrestling simulator, but with different roster and different storylines, of course. Alright, so with all that being said, let's talk about what we're going to be discussing today on a very special Frantic Talks podcast, and that is King of the Ring 1998, a very infamous WWE to WWF at the time pay-per-view. And we'll get into why that was infamous, but this is something we don't normally do. Usually we're talking about games and the news, but today we're going to take a special episode, kind of discuss this because I've been watching back through WWE Raw, the archives on WWE Network, and I got to this point and it was like, hey, we need to do a free show.
For only $9.99 a month.
It can be yours. WWE subscription for $9.99 a month. That is a hell of a deal. You get literally all Raw, all of WCW, all of ECW, and all of SmackDown, all the WWE stuff going way back.
You get so much stuff that promotions that people probably never even heard of unless they're super into wrestling like I am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. There's so much stuff on there, and you get the pay-per-views every other Sunday at this rate. You get those live and the day after, but the only catch is that Raw and SmackDown, the weekly ones, don't go up for about a month. They're on a delay, probably because of their network agreements with USA and whoever else they do stuff with. I think it's just USA.
Currently. I think it's just USA at this point, yeah.
I mean, I think they have other ones internationally, but yeah, that one for America's is, of course, USA Network. So
America.
All right, America. So we'll probably have a lot of lingo going around in here, a lot of wrestling terms that you may or may not know. I'll try my best, and I'm sure Freak Show will as well, to fill you in on what random words mean. If we ever say that something was a work or a shoot, we'll probably make sure to say that. I know I wrote kayfabe.
And Frantic probably won't even know.
Yeah, exactly. There are definitely words I'll probably be like, wait, what does that mean? So hope you guys are interested in this, and if you like this, like I said, hit us up on Twitter. Let us know if you want to hear another one of these. It's not like we're going to get around to doing these all every week or anything like that, but it's kind of fun to, take a change of pace and focus on something else that's still in the nerddom culture that we tend to bathe in Frantic Talks. All right, so King of the Ring 1998, we'll try to give you background to each match as much as possible. This is going to be mostly audio, so anyone watching the video, no need to stare at our faces unless you want to just get a good look at us. So King of the Ring 1998 headlines are two specific matches, both technically in the Hell in a Cell. First up being... Technically, yeah. We'll get there. Mankind versus The Undertaker is one of them, and then Stone Cold versus Kane in a First Blood match for the WWF title. Those were like the headlining, these are the big matches, double main event, as they like to say the whole time. We got a double header almost, is the way they put it. So first up, we start off with two matches. The first match, I almost want to call this the pre-show, before there was a pre-show, because...
It's pretty much the pre-show before it was a pre-show, yeah.
Because JR makes a note that, hey, these were added like hours ago to the lineup, right, today. So last minute planning.
At that point... I don't know if Sunday Night Heat was a thing yet.
They had a Saturday show at this point. I don't remember the name of it.
Was it Shotgun Saturday Night?
Yes.
It probably got added then.
Yeah, because they only mentioned Shotgun once, and that's later on in a match where I was like, there's no background to this, there's no storyline, and they're like, oh, and this it's basically a rematch here on King of the Ring, and I'm like, oh, well, I haven't been watching Shotgun Saturday Night, so whatever. So the
I don't even think Shotgun Saturday Night's on the network yet.
Well, see, there you go. You can't even watch it. But granted, it's how it doesn't exist anymore. I'm sure it did well for itself. So first up, we have a 6-man tag match in the form of the Headbangers and Taka Michinoku versus Kai and Tai. So the real history of this match is Kai and Tai have been harassing...
I'm not even going to say who's in Kai and Tai? Man.
I don't even know I didn't write their names down. Who's in Kai and Tai? You know, Almighty Freak Show.
Sho Funaki, Men's Teo, and Dick Togo.
Okay. So those guys are Kai and Tai. And they kind of are what the cruiserweights are now in Raw, in a way. Like, their style is very high-flying offense. Just like Taka Michinoku, who's the light heavyweight champion right now. So the real background is Taka Michinoku and Terry Bradshaw have kind of been buddying up in a really funny kind of, partnership. And Kai and Tai have been kind of running out of the crowd and attacking them every now and then and causing chaos in their matches and whatever. So the Headbangers get involved in this one, like you said, just kind of added randomly. And what's really funny, I really enjoyed that Taka Michinoku came out, I think he was in like a robe or something, but he basically revealed that he was wearing the Headbanger kilt and all that stuff when he took it off. Which was really funny.
It's not a kilt, they actually refer to it as a skirt.
Well, they call it a skirt, sure.
I'm pretty sure on the back of their shirts it even says real men wear skirts.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is very true.
Yeah.
So the Headbangers are awesome. I really like them, naturally, of course. And Taka Michinoku, I enjoy him. Very underrated guy, I think. The fans love him, and the Headbangers throughout most of this match. Kai and Tai are, of course, the heels, which are the bad guys in wrestling terms. It wasn't too much to add about this match, though. There was a point where there were some cool tag team moves with the Headbangers and Taka Michinoku, where they did like a double body press, where they lifted him way up in the air and then let him land on one of the members of Kai and Tai. But that's about all I have in terms of matches. Just a lot of cool spots with the cruiserweight style that speaks better if you actually see it. I don't know if you had anything else to add.
Fact, I once saw Taka Michinoku wrestle a blow-up doll.
That is something we know now. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. That is why. Why was that a thing? Oh, jeez.
I don't know.
Yeah, me neither. So anyways, the match ends with a Taka driver. Is it Taka driver or is it
it's the Michinoku driver.
Michinoku driver. And the Headbangers and Taka Michinoku end up taking away with the win. Good stuff. I always enjoy watching Taka Michinoku, and he kind of always wins. He won at the WrestleMania pay-per-view, WrestleMania 14. He won, I think, his other couple matches. He doesn't really lose unless it's via shenanigans. So, I mean, that's actually how most people who are supposed to be getting over with the crowd lose. In the Attitude Era is shenanigans.
The Attitude Era is a lot of shenanigans.
Yeah, as you'll come to see. All right, so next up we have the other pre-show randomness. So basically, Sable comes out, and the story behind Sable here is she was at the last pay-per-view. She was supposed to face off against her former lover, Mark Marrow, the fabulous Mark Marrow, marvelous Mark Marrow.
Marvelous Mark Mayo.
Yeah, because it's alliteration. And he was like, loser leaves WWF, and then they're like, let's just shake on it, and Mara rolls her up like a little piece of shit, so she has to technically leave, but then she comes back, thanks to Vince McMahon, and we don't know anything else. She still hasn't said why. So she shows up, introduces Vince McMahon, and oh my god, this segment is incredibly sexist, as is most of the Attitude Era.
You haven't seen anything.
No, I know. We haven't gotten to brawn panty matches, any of that. This is bad because Sable introduces Vince, and then he comes out with Pat Patterson and who's the other guy? I forgot his name.
Gerald Briscoe.
Comes out with them, and first off, JR's line of commentary caught me off. He says, guys would marry Sable's dog just to be a part of her family.
Yep.
That was weird.
It was.
Hashtag JR quotes. And then Pat Patterson, as Sable is leaving the ring, smacks Sable's ass. She gets around and slaps him, and then Patterson gets pissed off, grabs the mic, and says that, he's so pissed that a woman would dare lay hands on him, after he smacked her ass. No, not just out of randomness smacking him. No, you don't lay your hands on me, even though I already grabbed you where the sun don't shine.
Which is funny, because in real life, Pat Patterson's gay.
What the hell?
Yeah.
That's so weird. Oh, the 90s, everybody. It's a weird time. All right, so Next up, Vince McMahon starts shit-talking the crowd because, they didn't quite measure up to their parents' expectations. That is not me making things up. That's literally his insult to the crowd is, you're all booing me because you just never would measure up. That was funny and odd. But the idea behind it all was, you're going to be disappointed with Austin, losing tonight. Trying to say, Kane's going to beat him in the match. So overall, this was just a little odd. I mean, Vince is just playing his Mr. McMahon dickbag character that he has played since around this time. This is kind of when he was made, but with the Montreal Screwjob, if you don't know about that, it's kind of where the character was birthed. So, I don't know. I don't know anything else to add. It was just, marry some dogs, get into Sable's family, go tell Brock Lesnar you want his wife, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, the only one getting in Sable now is Brock Lesnar.
Yep, Sable Lesnar. That's actually not her name, but whatever. Okay.
Good enough.
So the first official match, I will say, because the first match was pre-show or whatever, is Double J, Jeff Jarrett, Double J.
Do the thing, Frantic.
Sorry, the JEFFJARRETT, the Double J, Jeff Jarrett. Managed by the wonderful Tennessee Lee. Also, why doesn't Tennessee Lee say the TENNESSELLE? Why not?
Fun fact about Tennessee Lee.
Yeah.
Because I'm currently watching WCW Nitro from the beginning on the network, which can be yours for $9.99
a month.
Yeah, a month. He is actually one of the managers of Harlem Heat, a.k.a. Booker T and Stevie Ray.
Oh, okay. Well then.
And, he plays basically a slave owner.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's how you get some heat in Harlem, am I right?
Originally, Harlem Heat was supposed to come out in chains and stuff. Thank God they changed that.
Hashtag 90s, everyone.
Yeah.
Hashtag 90s. Okay, so we got Double J, Jeff Jarrett versus Ken Shamrock in a semi-final for the King of the Ring tournament. So up until this point, we've had a couple of qualifying matches, followed by the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8, or whatever you want to call it, to determine who would be fighting in the King of the Ring. So the finals, or the semifinals, are Jeff Jarrett versus Ken Shamrock, and the following match, which will be Dan Severn versus The Rock.
You basically said his name the same way 3 different times.
Yeah. So I don't have much to ask or say about this match. I don't have any notes here besides the fact that the winner ends up being Shamrock after his trademark ankle lock. But after the match, Tennessee Lee does get a belly-to-belly for his troubles. Because Ken Shamrock is crazy. Or at least that's his character.
I love Ken Shamrock. Just because he is the he is pushed as the world's most dangerous man. I mean, the man comes out to the ring and slams his own head on the steps, and then punches himself.
Yeah, he does that.
What's not to like?
Yep. His character has anger management issues, as they often like to remind you, where he just goes crazy and beats up a bunch of refs when he loses a lot. That happened multiple times up to this kind of a pay-per-view.
And the man could legitimately beat the shit out of somebody.
Yes, he was in UFC.
He was in the UFC.
Mm-hmm. Him and Dan Severn actually had 2 matches in the UFC, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Before, up to this point, they both had taken a win from each other. Or they had both gotten a win over each other, I think.
Dan Severn, one of only a handful of people to win over 100 mixed martial arts fights.
That's interesting. Well then.
Yeah.
Legit badass. Well, so Ken Shamrock advances to the finals of the King of the Ring, and The Rock goes up against Dan Severn, the man we just mentioned, in the next match for the other determining who's going to face Ken Shamrock. Overall, this match was actually really boring. I'm not going to lie. The Rock has had many better matches than this one. I would not recommend this if you're wanting to watch his Best Of series. Basically, the story is Severn will literally kill you if you get locked into submission, so Rock hangs around the ropes most of the match. And what ends up happening is the Nation of Domination, who The Rock is now leading, comes out, distracts the ref. D'Lo comes in after, he lost to Severn in the previous match, on like Raw a week ago or 2 weeks or something. They say Severn's submission tore his pectoral, so he's got this like body armor on to protect his tits, basically.
Good old chest protector era D'Lo Brown. He wears that thing for, my God, way too long.
Well, I mean, if he legitimately tore his pectoral, more props to him, because he comes out and then delivers his frog splash from the top rope onto Severn, which ends up allowing The Rock to win this match, which the Nation, like we said, shenanigans. Anytime somebody that's supposed to be a face, which is a good guy in the WWE or in wrestling terms, anytime a good guy is going to lose, it's not because he legitimately should lose. He didn't just get pinned clean, he didn't lose clean, something shenanigan worth happened. And here's a very good example of that.
Good old Vince Russo.
Good old Vince Russo. So this makes the King of the Ring final match be Ken Shamrock versus The Rock, who have some very big history, having fought for the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania 14, which Ken Shamrock won, but The Rock did some shenanigans and retained his title, and there's been a lot of blood between Ken Shamrock and the Nation of Domination.
I think we're skimming over the fact here that D'Lo Brown has one of the best frog splashes, I think, out of anybody.
Oh, I don't think we skimmed over it. I think we were just getting to that, because, his frog splash is pretty sweet. He jumps off the top rope, throws both hands between his legs, all in the amount of time it takes to go from the top to the bottom. It's pretty sweet, and I would definitely recommend at least seeing the end of this match if you want to check out one of those, but I think D'Lo's had much better, showings. He's just kind of in his rookie phase. He kind of just joined the Nation. I don't think he was doing anything before this in the WWF, right?
No, he's not. He's not the Eurocontinental champion D'Lo Brown yet.
Not yet.
That's where he really gets good.
Yeah, and that's like a year away from now. So he's still in this rookie form. And The Rock at this point, if you didn't know this, is still getting booed by the crowd. He's still fresh into the Rock persona, the persona that made him what he is. He used to be Rocky Maivia, who was this really bright and smiley babyface who came out and was just happy to be there, and the fans
wanted him to die.
Literally wanted him to die.
They would chant, "Die, Rocky, die."
Yes, it got that bad. So he turned heel, came up with The Rock, started referring to himself in third person. And more or less, it's history from there. He starts throwing out all his phrases, and I can kind of hear at this point the crowd kind of going over for him. There's still a lot of the Rocky sucks chants, but I think it's getting to the point where it's similar to Kurt Angle now, where everyone shouts "you suck," but they still like him.
Right.
So he has a lot of really good one-liners so far, and it's only gonna go up from here. But he's still in that phase. So if you're like me and didn't know until you started watching, sorry, I'm slapping a gnat on my face. If you're like me and started watching the Attitude Era and didn't realize the history of The Rock, it was like, oh, I didn't know people didn't actually like him from day one. Then now you know that.
People hated him.
Very much so. So, all right, so the next match, our good old pal Al Snow and the Head. This match is so stupid.
Everybody needs a little head in their lives.
Everyone needs a little head. You're right. So let's go over the backstory. It's Al Snow in the head versus Too Much Too Sexy, which is Brian Christopher, and I cannot remember the other guy's name. I thought I wrote it down.
Scott
Snyder.
No.
I thought it was Snyder.
No.
Oh.
Pretty sure his last name at this point is Taylor.
That actually sounds right.
Fans of later wrestling will come to know him as Scotty Too Hottie.
Yes. So this is the early form of Scotty Too Hottie, where they do some really... They're heels who are just very... what's the term? Unaware. There's got to be a better term of that. Oblivious. They're very oblivious to the fans not liking them. They're like, oh, we do cool stuff, and then they like... When the fans boo them, they make these crazy faces. Honestly, my favorite types of heels are these characters who are just oblivious to the fact that no one likes them. Because they just do shit and they can get away with it, and it's great. But anyways, the backstory to this is Al Snow has been showing up on Monday Night Raw for the past... since the end of the last pay-per-view. And he's been asking Jerry Lawler, the King, to get him a meeting with Vince McMahon. And at one point he sneaks in to the crowd. He always has different outfits on, I think. 2 weeks ago, he was wearing some like mariachi outfit with a sombrero. It was fucking hilarious.
During one of those weeks, he actually dressed up as one of his old gimmicks. I think he dressed up as Avatar and tried to get in there.
I don't know which one Avatar is.
His ninja-looking character.
I don't know if he did that. I know that King brought him in under a sheet so that they could mask him so he didn't look like a trespasser is the whole thing. But he eventually stole the King's crown after the King didn't get him a meeting with Vince McMahon, even though he was promised he would.
No, he didn't steal the King's crown.
Oh, sorry, Head stole.
Head stole the King's crown.
If you don't know what Head is, that we've been saying Head, besides the obvious sexual jokes, it's just one of those like hairstylist mannequin heads. That's all it is. And it has "Help Me" written backwards on it, right?
Yeah.
So his whole thing is he just, waves it like head, 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 and you'll hear that chanted a lot throughout this, anytime Al Snow shows up, actually. So Head stole the crown, and the only way the way King got the crown back was to schedule a match where if Al Snow won, he would get his meeting with Vince McMahon. So Al Snow, on his way out to the ring, they make a surprise announcement that Jerry the King Lawler is actually the special guest referee. Oh, wow. Totally partial match here where it's going to be basically 3-on-1, as obviously it's supposed to be a tag match between Al Snow and the Head, who is not a person, versus Too Much Too Sexy. This match was just really comedic. I had a good laugh watching it the whole time. There's many times where Al Snow has put away either Brian Christopher or Scotty Too Hottie, but the King, obviously, being the special guest referee, doesn't allow it. And
hey man, you gotta make sure them shoulders are down.
There's one point, the first pin that Al Snow goes for, he's got him down, and he could have counted to like 10 if he was really reffing. But
he probably could have counted to 100.
King looks over, he's kind of hanging out at the ropes, Al's already ready to pin him, and he gets down, he slowly counts 1, puts his hand under each shoulder, making sure they're still down, counts 2, keeps doing it, and then when he goes to count 3, they kick out. It was like, oh my god. And JR will always mention, it's totally partial reffing here. But at one point, Snow needs to get out of the ring. He's too fatigued and tries to tag. He tags in Head and just takes his head and just hits everybody with it, basically, which is really funny. And the way the match ends is the funniest thing, and I feel like people in the ring, or not in the ring, in the arena, didn't understand how it ended. Because it's kind of hard to see. But essentially, the Head is the legal partner, and Al Snow's in there beating up one of the guys, and he goes for the pin, and then Jerry Lawler, the King, throws a bottle of something to his son, or kayfabe son. I don't know if it's his real son.
It's his actual son.
Okay, so his son, Brian Christopher, and he throws this bottle, and they screw the bottle on the bottom of Head, and then Jerry counts the pin. So Al Snow's pinning at the same time Brian Christopher's pinning. And the bottle is a bottle of Head and Shoulders. So the shoulders are down. My God, man. Ultimate level puns right there.
Yup.
I legit laughed out loud.
I aspire to be that one day.
So Al Snow loses because the Head and Shoulders bottle got pinned, basically. Oh, it's so funny, but stupid at the same time. God, Al Snow is hilarious.
You know, Head was an unlockable character in I want to say it was WWF Attitude.
Really?
The PlayStation 1, yeah.
How do you play as Head?
It was Head, of course, and then it had 2 hands and 2 feet, and it would walk around, and you know, that was it. It was Head.
That's really weird.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. All right, so up next we got Owen Hart versus X-Pac. X-Pac. They can't decide how they want to say his name yet. And the story behind this is they were both in the King of the Ring tournament, and each person cost the other their match. Owen Hart was facing somebody.
Can I just point something out before we start here?
Yes.
What was up with that? With like the 2 elbow pad gimmick that Owen Hart had?
Oh, I have no idea because
like
it's not there.
One elbow pad. He had the 1 elbow pad, and then he had what, like the it was a blue one underneath that, and like the black one just kept sliding down, and then at some point all of a sudden the black one's gone.
Maybe it's one of those like protective sleeves. Maybe had like a little bit of an elbow issue, and that was kind of like a knee brace. Maybe, I don't know. I truly don't know what was going on there.
I don't know.
So there is. It's a decent match, and I will say it gets crazy at the end because Attitude Era shenanigans. Of course, Owen Hart is now a part of the Nation of Domination. Nope, not Nation of Domination. Yeah, it is. Okay, I was confusing them with the League of Nations or whatever from like 2012 or what that Sheamus was a part of. I
don't understand how you confuse those two things.
Because they have Nation in the name.
One's a group of militant black guys. Well, it started out as a group of militant black guys. Now Owen Hart's there, and then the other was a bunch of foreigners.
Well, it was just
yeah. Well, not black. I can tell you that much.
They have Nation in the name, you know. But anyways,
they both have "of" in the name too, I guess.
Yeah. See, 2/3 of their name. I'm gonna screw that up. Owen Hart is part of the Nation of Domination, and X-Pac is a part of D-Generation X, which
some of Owen Hart's funniest work is going to happen now that he joined the Nation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So far, he's just been screaming that he's fed up and tired of everything because he's been trying to play good and keeps getting screwed over.
Yeah. Well.
Which is a natural way to turn heel, I would suppose.
Just wait until DX imitate the Nation.
Oh, this will get fun. Oh yeah, the blackface X-Pac. That's a thing. Ugh, we'll get there. Well, it's not in the show. But
90. X-Pac is actually one of the most underrated wrestlers ever, I think.
I just can't stand listening to him on the mic.
He should not be allowed to have the mic now.
He just shouts 89 at 89% times 100% times 100%. He's just constantly yelling into the mic. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, he should not have the mic, but he is one of the most underrated wrestlers ever, and ultimately drug addiction is the one thing that kept him from probably realizing how great he could have been.
Yeah, which is unfortunate in and of its own. So I will say I don't understand why X-Pac is wearing a red and black jumpsuit. I'm used to seeing him in the green and black to fit DX's color scheme. He's in this red and black outfit that's his normal outfit, but red and black instead of green in my mind. It seems weird since D-Generation X is all about that black and green. So, anyways, I have 2 notes, or actually I have multiple notes. First off, I noticed that X-Pac does his signature. I don't know what the actual name of it is. But at one point he hits off the ropes, and that's
the face buster thing.
Yeah, the face buster.
That's
through
the
legs.
X Factor.
Yeah, so he does the X Factor, which Owen kind of gets back up from shortly after. So I suppose it wasn't his finisher yet. But then Owen is down on the bottom rope, and X-Pac goes to do his other signature Bronco Buster, where he just constantly basically throws his dick in their face.
He face fucks them, full on.
Yeah, literally. Look it up if you're curious. But
he actually tore his asshole doing that once. Another fun fact.
Oh my god. Why does that not surprise me? But anyways, Owen failed to recognize it, and he gets hit by it once, and then kind of slumps down to the point where his head's basically not even on the bottom rope, and X-Pac still going, doesn't even realize it happened. So I thought that was really funny. And then when
you're into it, you're into it.
No, he's full on, and it just looks like
You can't pull out early from the Bronco Buster, man. You just can't do it.
No.
You gotta finish.
So later on, they're kind of fighting, and they're up on the top rope at one point, and I made this note because I kind of laughed at it. They both kind of knock each other out, but it wasn't like a forceful one, and Owen Hart just jumps backwards off the top rope and lands in the middle of the ring. And X-Pac kind of slumps and falls down to the outside. I just thought it was really funny because they both kind of just hit each other, took a second, and Owen Hart realized that was a hit and jumped backwards, and then they're both knocked out. It was really stupid. And it is at this point shenanigans begin, because Mark Henry runs in, does his big 400-pound man splash onto X-Pac outside of the ring, and then there's a face-off between Mark Henry and Chyna, along with Vader running in, the man known as Vader, who hits Mark Henry. They've been kind of feuding, two big dudes punching each other. Sounds great, makes for good marketing. And it is at this point Owen Hart locks X-Pac in the sharpshooter, but Chyna comes in, DDTs him out of the sharpshooter, and X-Pac pins him for the win.
Can we talk about the fact that Vader hit him so hard that he immediately lost his own footing and fell over backwards?
When you're a big dude like that, it's hard to keep your stance.
I'm a big dude, I know. But my God.
I just feel bad for Vader, because he just goes downhill from the point he got unmasked, even though he's not even really wearing a mask. It was pretty. It was shenanigans. That is the story here. All right, so up next we have a segment with Paul Bearer, who is managing Kane at this point. He comes into the ring and
Paul Bearer.
He does his trademark
real life mortician, actually.
Why am I not surprised by that? That just makes sense.
Don't know.
This is the guy that worshipped the urn or whatever. So he starts screaming into the mic like normal, talking about how Undertaker beat the shit out of him in his own home, which actually happened in the storylines. They'll show a flashback of that because Undertaker was tired of him talking shit about his mom or whatever. He beat the shit out of him. He wasn't supposed.
Where two grown men can basically make your mom jokes on TV.
I mean, you're not wrong. The whole thing is Kane is Undertaker's half-brother, and Paul Bearer is supposedly his father, so Kane's his son. So, Paul starts trying to make you feel...
slipped that dick in Undertaker's mom. That's what happened.
Yeah, and that's why Undertaker went and beat the shit out of him at his own house. And they did a whole fake paternity test, and actually... Well, I mean, fake in the sense it's not really his kid. That's what we call kayfabe, my friends. In the sense that, Paul Bearer's proved to be his father, whatever. So he wants you to feel sympathy for Kane because Kane was mistreated as a kid because of his scars that he wears the mask over. And that's basically this whole angle. He's like, I'm going to be a proud dad when I walk out of here because my son's going to be the new champion. Basically it. So Paul Bearer is a great heel. He gets so booed so often, and it works really well. Too bad he's dead. But anyways, on to happier news.
Like real life dead.
Yeah, he's actually really dead. We're not...
Yeah, not to be confused with the time that Undertaker buried him in cement and killed him, kayfabe.
No, then he actually died not too long after that. So,
well, I mean, it was years after that. But.
Right. But in the sense of how far back we are now, it's,
right.
So, speaking of dead people, how many people on the show are actually not with us anymore? Owen Hart, Chyna, Paul Bearer. Is that it? I think that's actually it. Well,
I think so.
All right, so up next we have the WWE Tag Team Champions of the World, the Road Dogg Jesse James, Badass Billy Gunn, the New Age Outlaws.
I love their spiel. That was one thing that always stuck with me.
Yeah.
Since I was a kid, was Road Dogg going off on his big spiel.
Oh yeah, it's very iconic. For sure.
One thing that I caught that Road Dogg said was that was Billy Gunn was hard as steel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Yes. So this is them taking on the NWA Tag Team Champions, the Midnight Express of Bombastic Bob and Bodacious Bart. I have a note on them here in a moment, but I want to say that they are managed by Jim Cornette, who they haven't really shown up on the past couple of Raws. I want to say I did not realize Bombastic Bob is Hardcore Bob Holly.
And Bodacious Bart is Bart Gunn, a.k.a. the man that got his shit kicked in by Butterbean.
Yes.
A.k.a. Billy Gunn's brother. Not sure if it's kayfabe or if it's a real brother.
So, fun fact about them, they both look very different because they have long hair, and they're not wearing what you'd think they'd be wearing. So I want to point out that prior to this, the previous...
Also not the original Midnight Express.
No, they're the newly formed Midnight Express, because Jim Cornette was tired of the old one, I thought. Or was that the Rockstar, or the Rockers or whatever? I don't remember their name.
Do you mean the Rock and Roll Express?
That one. Yeah. Yes. So, last Raw, I want to point out, if you get the chance, you should check out the previous episode of Raw before this. It's actually a really good episode. And there was a triple threat tag team match that had a great ending, in my opinion. It was the New Age Outlaws versus Legion of Doom 2000 and the Disciples of Apocalypse. And it was a triple threat tag match where only 2 people could be legal. So, you had random people tagging in and out. And at one point, Legion of Doom and DOA decide they're going to tag in both of the New Age Outlaws to fight each other, because we'll just let them beat each other up. And then, right as they look like they're about to go into it, Road Dogg lays on the ground for Billy Gunn to cover him, and they pin him 1, 2, 3 and retain their titles. It was really funny.
Yeah, because technically they both won and lost, so they would keep the belts.
Yeah, it was really funny because the LOD and DOA didn't even see it coming, and I'm sitting there thinking, what happens if... I was thinking that might be the ending, and when it finally happened, I was like, that was pretty good. I like the acting they did, where they're like, oh, I don't want to hurt you, and then they just lay down and let him pin him. It was really funny.
Yeah.
All right, so this is where that Shotgun Saturday match came from. So apparently they had a Saturday show that had this match, and X-Pac intervened at the last second to retain the WWE Tag Team Championships on the New Age Outlaws, because they are a part of DX. So otherwise, there was a really cool sequence between Billy and Bart Gunn, where I think Billy gets in this weird pin where he's getting pinned by Bart, but Bart's kind of like laying on him in a weird angle, and then he just like stretches up. He just uses his entire upper body to pull him up to the top, does a quick rollover, and there's a couple other random things where he does leg drops and stuff. There's a really cool sequence between them that I noted. And then it just dives into the half-ring formula that I don't really like about tag matches, where they just cut off one guy from the other side of the ring, and it's all about tagging the guy in to run in and beat everybody up.
How can you not like that about tag wrestling?
It's because it's I don't know.
It's formulaic, yes. You can also thank the Rock and Roll Express for that.
Yeah,
they're the ones that made it popular. Because Robert Gibson would just get the shit beat out of him. Then he'd tag in Ricky Morton, and he'd come in, clean the house, and they'd get the 1, 2, 3, and the fans popped every night for it.
And when I think it's Road Dogg or Billy, I think it's when Road Dogg finally gets the tag, and Billy Gunn comes in and starts cleaning the house, the crowd pops for it. So, and it's something that still happens to this day. One of the last episodes of Raw, or one of the more recent episodes, it was the Hardy Boys versus, I don't even remember who, but Jeff Hardy's just on the side getting the crowd pumped up. When he finally gets tagged in, he starts cleaning the house, and people go crazy for it. And I don't mind it. It's nice to see that payoff.
A hot tag.
Okay, a hot tag. I like to see that payoff. It just it gets a little formulaic. It's like, oh my god, just get on with it. And that's how my mind works. So here we go with more shenanigans. Cornette comes in to hit Billy Gunn with the NWA tag belt to the back of the head, but the ref takes a little bit to start counting because he was distracted, and Billy gets to kick out. And Cornette's amazed because typically when you hit somebody with a belt, that's it's done. It's the ultimate weapon. And then Cornette tries to get into it again, but Chyna sneaks up behind him and low blows him. And then the final move, I don't remember what they did to actually pin him. But during the pin, I made the note that Road Dogg does the suck it motion every time they count, and it's 1, 2, 3, suck it, suck it, suck it. It was pretty great.
Yeah,
I quite enjoyed that. So Road Dogg and Billy Gunn keep their titles. Pretty good match in my opinion. It was fun. Like I said, I didn't enjoy the formulaic half ring, but there was a lot of cool spots, and the crowd went nuts when Jim Cornette got low blowed because they're constantly chanting "You suck, Cornette" or whatever, or "Cornette sucks." I think was the chant. So
Road Dogg and Billy Gunn recently won the tag championships again a couple years ago when they came back.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was interesting. Road Dogg could still run his mouth, and Billy Gunn got blown up on the way to the ring. Was already out of breath. Of course he was. I mean, they can still wrestle.
I feel like a lot of that stuff you don't really forget. It's a matter of if your body can handle it. So,
well, if you haven't done it at such a high level, like the WWE, then all the cardio in the world's not going to save you, because doing cardio and actually being in the ring is probably two different beasts.
I feel like it only helps like marginally. It's an entirely different thing to be able to do all. I mean, it takes all the muscles to do all that stuff. I mean, jumping up and down, lifting guys and stuff. That's not about being able to run a mile. That's about being able to lift a mile. Basically, is the best way to put it. So,
right.
Well, I mean, at least they can still do it. I know everyone on the Squared Circle subreddit's always talking about Road Dogg Jesse James blocking anybody who talks bad about him and preaching his sermon to everybody.
He does do that, yeah.
So, all right. So up next we have the pay-per-view namesake match, the King of the Ring final. Who's gonna be the King of the Ring 1998? Is it The Rock or is it Ken Shamrock? Last year's winner, Triple H, is on color commentary. And there's a lot of history between the three guys in the ring, more so connected by The Rock, with, like I said earlier, Shamrock and The Rock having their fight at WrestleMania, and Rock and Triple H having a little bit of go because Nation of Domination and DX are feuding currently.
I don't know if you caught this on commentary.
I have a note.
But I did. And it was... China's over on the Spanish announce table.
We'll get there.
Okay.
That's my next note, actually. So we'll just go. So China's on Spanish commentary.
Okay.
I enjoyed her being on Spanish commentary because she was bilingual, something I did not know, and it was really cool to see her actually talking in Spanish. Oh my God, Triple H. Do you want to say what he said?
So I forget who said something. I think it's JR. Asked, what are they talking about? And Triple H says something about, they're talking about getting Taco Bell or something. Just some sort of racist thing.
He says,
JR's like, you're not bilingual? And Triple H just immediately says, I'm a lot of bi things, but lingual's not one of them.
Yep.
And then there's this awkward silence. And Triple H says, I didn't really mean to say that.
He said, did I just say that live?
Yeah.
And JR goes, well, be that as it may, we are live.
Yeah.
The quote at the beginning was something about Taco Bell. They want to go to Taco Bell and get a burrito supreme. And then he says the bye quote. He just said, oh, it was so funny. I rewound it just so I could type it. I was like, what the hell?
It was a very awkward silence. For a good solid 10 seconds.
Oh yeah, it was really funny. My note is fucking lol. It was so funny. Oh jeez.
I heard that and I had to pause it and rewind it because it was like, did that really just happen?
Exactly. Oh jeez, yeah. So on top of this match, you should watch it just for that commentary bit alone and keep going because this is a really good match, guys. Ken Shamrock and The Rock go all out. And to kind of give you an idea of what happens, at one point Rock goes to the outside of the ring and picks a fight with Triple H. More so of a verbal fight, but Triple H spits water in his face. Either way, there's a bunch of just crazy good fighting. I can't really put too much to it without you watching it. Shamrock shows resilience, kicks out of a bunch of DDTs. They both are down on the mat and get to a 9 count, but they finally get up. And that's when The Rock, who's been dominating for the most time, kind of starts losing to Shamrock. He gets a second wind. So the guys are just fatigued towards the end, but it's a really, really good match. It's a longer match, and especially considering...
Way better than Rock's match with Dan Severn earlier.
Yeah, exactly. And considering they had wrestled earlier, it's even a little more impressive, and they make notes on that in the commentary. It's like, man, these guys are going all out, and they've already wrestled. It's crazy. But the match ends when Shamrock counters The Rock into an ankle lock, and The Rock taps out to Ken Shamrock. No shenanigans, the face wins. Ken Shamrock is King of the Ring, 1998. Overall, one of the best matches on the card. I'd almost give it the best if it wasn't for the next match. We'll get to that in a second. But overall, it's good stuff. Watch it for that commentary bit with Triple H, and then continue from there, because it only gets better.
I think overall, I would say that this is the best match.
Like actual match.
Like actual match, and putting the nostalgia of, I remember this next match as a kid, like putting that aside, this was probably the best actual match on the card.
Easily. It definitely another rewatch in my book. I'd probably go back and watch this again, because it's so good. It's not too long, but you can tell they're getting tired, but they're still putting it all in. It's great. Great chemistry from the both of them.
It's the beginnings of what is going to lead to The Rock versus Triple H in the larger Nation of Domination versus DX thing.
Yes.
And those are going to be really good matches when those come up for you to watch.
And I'm excited to get to those. So let's go into why this pay-per-view is one of the most iconic pay-per-views because of this next match, and that is the Hell in a Cell match, the second ever, featuring Mankind and The Undertaker. This is a match that anyone who's not even into wrestling probably has seen a picture of. This match...
there for a while. I think it even might still be on there. The whole "don't try this at home" thing.
I think this is one of the shots in that.
It's a shot of what happens. It's a shot of Mick Foley on the floor with, like teeth up in his nose.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So let's go over how this happened, and this is something to watch, guys. This is not for the faint of heart. If you aren't into more of the hardcore side of wrestling, where they're doing some crazy stuff and getting bloody, this match probably won't be for you. But it's crazy. Just watch the opening of the point of where they have to stop. So let's go over it. The backstory here is that Mankind got in the way of Undertaker's shot at the title. It was Undertaker versus Kane for the #1 contendership for the title, which is why Kane is facing Stone Cold up next. And Mankind interfered, and Kane won. So Mankind and The Undertaker are now feuding over this, and they get scheduled in this Hell in a Cell match. So Mankind comes out first and immediately climbs to the top of the cell with a chair. Like, just immediately. He's on top. And then Undertaker shows up, and Mankind is just like, get up here, let's go. So Undertaker starts climbing up. Mankind's hitting him a couple times as he gets towards the top. Undertaker gets a few blows in, and then they both are on top of the cell. They start walking across, doing a couple of hits here and there, and you can see parts of the cell falling apart as it's happening.
At one point, Undertaker's foot goes through the cell, and it's just this big section that was originally like this is now just kind of like this.
Yeah, it breaks through because the chain link fence that they built this out of was zip tied together. So you got two 300-pound superstars climbing on this thing, and it's easily going to break under both of their weights.
Oh, definitely.
We'll get to that. So here's what happens next. They work their way to the other side of the cell where the announce tables are below them, and in one of the most iconic spots of wrestling history, Undertaker throws Mankind off the top of the cell through an announce table. To quote,
it's not like a couple years ago when Shane jumped off the top of the Hell in the Cell with the Undertaker, and you could see the airbag going off. It wasn't like that. There is nothing underneath the table.
No.
It's just Mankind hitting the table and then hitting the floor.
Yup. It's still crazy to watch. I've seen this a bunch of times. This is my second time watching this match, truthfully, but they replay the spot over and over again. in this pay-per-view and in the future, if you're ever watching and you see it. It's just insane. And it came up because Mick Foley was just kind of talking, I think, to Terry Funk, right?
Yeah.
He was talking to him about, how are we going to top the first Hell in a Cell? How are we going to do something cool? Mick Foley just kind of jokingly says, what if I threw myself off of it? They kind of laugh, and then he's like, no, I'm serious. And then he does this. Mick Foley's insane. He's not Vince McMahon insane, but he's insane.
And if I remember right, in Mick Foley's first book, the one that you had recently purchased,
yes,
he actually talks about this and then says something along the lines of he doesn't remember the rest of the match.
Yeah, no, he had to watch video of this match to actually see what had happened. He doesn't remember most of it. And this is part of it. There's another bit in a minute. I'm sorry if I'm swiping here. There's a gnat attacking me. In the upcoming bit, there's more to it where you can easily understand how someone would not remember anything that happened. So at this
you
point,
can easily understand if someone died.
Yeah, I mean,
the stuff that happens.
The fact that he lived is amazing, and he chalks that up to something here in a minute. We'll get to that. So once he hits the table and goes through it, the crowd goes nuts, and you hear JR say one of the most famous JR lines of all time, "Good God Almighty, that killed him, as God is my witness, he is broken in half." You've probably heard that line. If not, I don't know how.
What have you been doing with your life?
Yeah, what are you doing?
It obviously hasn't been watching wrestling.
Yeah, basically. And it's at this point, JR almost breaks kayfabe. And if you haven't caught on yet, kayfabe is, wrestler fiction. It's kind of like the storylines, that's kayfabe. So to break kayfabe at this point in time back in the 90s was like a cardinal sin. Like, don't do it. And JR is like, my God, man, stop the match. You need people out here now. Why are people just twiddling on their thumbs back there? Send people out. The fact that he didn't break kayfabe is amazing to me. He almost does. He kind of hints at it. But for the most part, he's just like, oh my God, this man has a family, all this stuff.
Yeah.
So it's at this point, the Hell in a Cell, with Taker still on top, gets raised up a bit so they can get medical help under the cell because they couldn't fit the stretcher through. And they're the announce team's freaking out, like, oh my God, Taker's still on top, what are they doing? And then that's King says that, and then JR's like, oh no, they're bringing medical help, they couldn't get it through. And they put Foley on it and start walking him towards the back when suddenly the cage comes down and Undertaker climbs down and Mick Foley gets back up and starts making his way back out while you can see Terry Funk, a couple other doctors, and referees trying to hold him back. He keeps going back, and at this point the crowd pops huge and we're still going after that crazy stunt. So Mankind and Undertaker climb back up onto the cell, start brawling more.
Because Undertaker's on the opposite side of the cell climbing down. He doesn't get down by the time that Mankind starts getting back up. And you can see the look on his face. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a genuine look of how the hell is he even up walking around anymore.
Oh, yeah. He's surprised as fuck. Like, oh my God, we're still going. As is JR and the King. They're just like, oh God, Mankind's crazy. So they get back up, start fighting again, and Mick Foley describes the next bit as the worst chokeslam I've ever taken. Undertaker chokeslams Foley on top of the cell. And this wasn't supposed to happen, but did. Remember how we said zip ties won't hold weight? He gets chokeslammed through the cell down to the middle of the ring.
And if that wasn't bad enough, there was a steel chair on the section of cage that he got slammed on that immediately follows him down and hits him in the mouth.
Yes. And that's how the teeth get up into his nose. So he hits the mat, and at this point he says he remembers blacking out, or he said he blacked out at that point. And Undertaker was quoted, Mankind or Mick Foley asked him, what did you think when that happened? And Undertaker said, I thought I killed you. Like, I thought you were dead. And Mankind even says, I'm pretty sure because I botched the chokeslam, I'm actually still alive. If he would have taken it properly, he supposedly would have died, is his thought. So that happens. They get more people into the ring. They're trying to get him, and Undertaker drops in and drops down. At this point, just keeps going in the match. I was really surprised Undertaker wasn't hesitating. Like, oh my God, he might be dead. He just keeps going on with the match, and chokeslams Terry Funk, who's trying to help, and you can see the rage in Terry Funk after he gets chokeslammed because he starts like spazzing on the ground. Because it's like, I gotta stay in kayfabe, but I'm so mad right now. My best friend is nearly dead.
That's actually Terry Funk's thing. That's how he sells stuff. He like
okay.
Yeah, he like has mini convulsions or whatever, and he actually gets chokeslammed out of his shoes.
That's also true.
I don't know if he just didn't tie his shoes tight or what. But Terry Funk's out of the ring and his shoes are like right there.
Yep, it's pretty funny. I forgot to mention that once he got chokeslammed through the cage and Foley hits the mat, Jerry the King Lawler goes, "That's it, he's dead." And one of the most deadpan deliveries I've ever heard, but it just helps seal the moment there. So the match goes on for another, I think, 10 minutes, where they're fighting in and out of the ring inside the cell. Undertaker goes to dive outside the cell or outside of the ring and hits the cage when Foley moves out of the way. And then Foley gets out his bag of thumbtacks and spreads them all over the ring. And he's trying to put Taker into it, but Taker keeps reversing it. Eventually, he chokeslams Mick Foley into the tacks after having already dropped Foley into the tacks, and then tombstones him and wins. So one of the most amazing matches in terms of just spots and absurdity, which both of them were able to put their bodies through, especially Mick Foley. And they got a standing ovation from the crowd, and even a lot of chants for Mick Foley at the end, while he was slowly making his way out of the ring. And apparently, when they were backstage getting checked on by the doctors, Mick Foley asked Undertaker, "Did I use the thumbtacks?" And Undertaker replied, "Look at your arm, Mick," because they were all over his arm. Just to give you how out of it he was. Which
I was surprised that the man could even walk after that.
Yeah, they were going to take him out on the stretcher, but then he got up himself and just slowly walked out. One of the craziest matches you will ever witness if you ever do get around to watching this, if you ever watch it. It's crazy. So that brings us to the main event, number 2 or whatever you want to call it, Kane versus Stone Cold in a first blood match. So as we mentioned earlier, Kane won the number 1 contendership spot, beating Undertaker after Mankind's interference. And Vince McMahon started pulling the strings and had Mankind and Kane kind of double team Stone Cold and tricking him and kind of just causing all kinds of mayhem. But the previous episode of Raw, which I mentioned you should definitely watch, there was a tag team Hell in a Cell that was supposed to be Taker and Stone Cold versus Mankind and Kane. But Undertaker no-showed, so it was kind of just Austin on his own. He starts beating up Kane, I think Mankind a little bit. And then Paul Bearer gets locked in the Hell in a Cell for some reason, I don't remember why, and then Undertaker cuts a hole in the ring and climbs out of it and beats the shit out of Paul Bearer. Which is pretty funny itself.
I can't remember if this is the time when Undertaker is going through the whole "I'm not gonna beat Kane up because he's my brother" phase.
Yes, he's doing that.
Okay.
Yeah. Which he goes over on Raw the next day, on the next episode of Raw after this pay-per-view. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But anyways, Kane set the stipulation, we're going to do a first blood match, but also if I lose, I'll set myself on fire. Kane's being scared of fire. So the match opens, Austin just comes out, he's pissed as all get out, and literally hits Kane with the belt twice to the head. It was hilarious to watch him hit him, and then a few seconds pass, Kane does his, sit up and then stands up and then gets hit again, and he's out for a little longer. So this was just an all-out match for the whole time. Austin has this crazy arm pad on his left arm, apparently due to a staph infection. That's what JR said. He was in and out of the hospital for like 3 days or something.
Yeah.
And they make a note of this, that Kane doesn't really have any exposed skin. Normally, he has a left sleeve that isn't there. He's just sleeveless on his left arm. That was kind of his signature look. He actually had sleeves on both arms this time, and he only had an exposed hand. So a first blood match with a guy that doesn't have any exposed skin, kind of hard to win, which I think is the whole point. And they go on to mention that the ref will not call the match on a simple scratch on your arm. That's lame. It's got to be full-blown open first blood. And that's a good point, because Austin's back starts bleeding early on, because I think he got hit into one of the thumbtacks that were still on the ground. So they see that and they make the note, the ref's not going to be stupid. So what I think is awesome about this match is not only was it a pretty good match, Austin's in control for most of the match, and Kane's been this monster that no one can stop, and they really put Austin to be like this badass by being able to take down Kane for the most part. I don't know. I enjoyed that. So I thought that was really good. storytelling, I guess is the best way to put that.
See, I always enjoyed Austin.
Oh, I love Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Like, I mean, who doesn't just want to walk up to their boss, flip them the double bird, and give them a stunner, and just walk out?
And constantly tell him to shut your damn mouth.
Yeah.
He's so good on the mic. And Vince McMahon sat back and took it because he had to for character purposes. Oh, it was great. So there's a really cool spot at one point. The Hell in a Cell starts coming down. So like I said, this was technically a Hell in a Cell match because the cell goes down, but it kept going up and down. Whatever monkey they had operating the controls needs fired because that was stupid. Because it was just like, oh, it's coming down. Oh, it's back up. Oh, it's coming down. But anyways, there's one point where it's about to come to the ground and Kane's holding Austin under it like it's going to crush him. And I thought that was kind of cool. Because obviously it's not going to happen, but either way, it was really neat. So, there's one, and after that, the cage first goes up and Kane's kind of caught in the door, like just laying horizontal on the bar, and he grabs Austin by the neck and kind of tries to pull him up, at which point Austin pulls him out of the door. But then we get to the shenanigans. Everyone loves shenanigans. So Mankind, the man who just died basically, comes back out to get and interfere in this match. The man who we thought couldn't walk comes out. I mean, he's still in his bloody shirt, doesn't have his mask on. He looks like hell. I mean, I would too if I had done what he just did. He comes out with a chair, I think, and then Austin basically Stone Cold Stunners him almost immediately, and then Stone Cold Stunners Kane. But obviously he can't pin him. It's a first blood match. A little bit before this, Earl Hebner, the referee, did get knocked out. So he's just kind of laying on the outside of the ring because
those referees, man, they're made of glass.
Basically,
it has to be the shirt, because even when a wrestler becomes a special guest referee and puts that shirt on, a fly lands on them and they're dead for fucking 15 minutes.
Or as Kevin Owens would say, you jump off of buildings or whatever.
Yeah.
To Shane McMahon when it was so good.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. So yeah, Earl Hebner's knocked out, and then out comes the Undertaker, who Austin gets up with the chair that Mankind came out with to go hit the Undertaker, but Undertaker has a chair of his own, and they do a double chair hit.
A weird sweatshirt thing on.
Yeah, Undertaker the past couple weeks had been coming out in like sweats basically instead of his typical stuff, which was kind of odd. But anyways, they go to hit chairs, and Undertaker hits the chair that Austin has with his chair into Austin's head. This is what causes Austin to bleed. But the referee is knocked out. I mean,
actually, the razor blade that he cuts his forehead with causes him to bleed, but...
Right, but according to the story, that's how he bleeds. And it is at this point, Undertaker goes out to the outside of the ring and pours gasoline on Earl Hebner to wake him up, apparently, so he could see that Austin was bloodied, seemingly teaming with Kane for some reason. And Austin then nails Kane with a chair, but at this point, Hebner looks up and sees him bleeding, rings the bell. Kane is the new WWF champion, ending Austin's very first reign with the title after about 3 months, and it fades to black nearly immediately with Vince McMahon smiling in his press box or whatever. Overall, pretty interesting end considering how ridiculously over Austin was at this point, over being, popular with the fans loving him. He lost, the fans kind of booed. I mean, they really liked Kane as a character, and they would cheer him on a lot of the times when his music came on. You hear in new WWF champion, the crowd kind of boos to it because, it's Austin.
Yeah, my God, Austin was over like Rover at this point.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the moment the glass shatters and he's coming, the fucking fans went ape shit. They'd constantly just chant Austin anytime Vince McMahon was on the mic. That's how ridiculous it was back then. So for Austin to lose, obviously via shenanigans, was interesting. And in turn, don't worry though, because literally the next night on Monday Night Raw, he wins it back from Kane. The whole story being, why did Undertaker help? Because Undertaker was like, I did what I had to do to protect my little brother, even though I hate him, whatever. Paul Bearer says, Kane can now, Undertaker, you're living in Kane's shadow. Austin comes out, it's like, fuck you, that's not the case. Kane, you got your belt handed to you by your brother. Sorry for that noise. That was my computer telling me it needs updates. Stone Cold's like, no, your big brother handed you that belt. How can you say you're a real champion if you didn't actually beat me, face me for the belt? And Austin wins at the end of the night. So Kane's reign lasts a day, and Austin just gets it right back for another longer. I think it's about the same, like 3 more months he has the title or something. But
it's one of only 2 or 3 times that Kane has held the belt.
And I think twice it's been like a day-long reign. Poor Kane. But anyways, that is the King of the Ring 1998 pay-per-view. overall, I think it's a pretty good pay-per-view. It's obviously remembered for the Mankind versus Undertaker Hell in a Cell. That is the biggest thing, and I think people kind of don't even know what else is on this pay-per-view.
No, I would guarantee if you'd ask anybody that even watched back then if they could name another match that was on the card, it would probably be Austin Kane and then Undertaker Mankind. Probably be the only two that they could name.
Yeah, and like there was, I think, 10 other segments. For as iconic as a pay-per-view it is, it's pretty crazy that people probably couldn't name anything other than the two main events. Which, I mean, to be fair, it's kind of hard to remember every single match that happens on every single card, but when it's as iconic of a pay-per-view as this one, I could name 3 or 4 matches from WrestleMania X7, one of the most iconic WrestleManias, maybe the most. So it's just crazy. Overall, I think it was a good pay-per-view. I would definitely recommend watching it. They do a decent job of showing you backstory before stuff, so you don't have to worry about having to watch a couple episodes beforehand. I still would recommend the last episode or 2 of Raw because those are they're pretty good, honestly. Good TV before you get to watch this one. But yeah, I think I'd probably give this 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. Pretty damn great.
I'd probably give it 8 out of 10.
Yeah, definitely a good show. And of course, iconic moments will be iconic moments. So I don't think I have anything else to say about the show unless you have any thoughts to add. Okay. Well,
no?
Well, that about does it for us, guys. Let us know what you thought. If you got a chance to sit down and watch this, let us know what you think. If you've already watched it and want to throw in your 2 cents, whatever. And if you're interested in hearing more of these episodes where we kind of just delve into delve into wrestling pay-per-views, definitely let us know. I'm sure we would not mind doing this again. We both quite enjoy wrestling. So, with that being said,
I'm picking the show next time.
I mean, you kind of picked this one. You're like, you want to review King of the Ring 1998 together? I'm like, yeah, sure, because I'm already there.
I only picked it because you was already there.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. But still, you technically picked it. What are you going to pick?
Fine.
SummerSlam 02 next time? Let's go. That's another big one. WrestleMania X7, all 4 hours of it, or however long it is.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I was probably going to pick Barely Legal 97 from ECW.
I don't even know what happens in that show. I know nothing of ECW. Besides, some people who started there.
It was ECW's first pay-per-view, and
it was bad?
Pretty good.
Oh, it was good?
It was pretty good. Yeah, I mean, literally 10 minutes after they finished the pay-per-view, the transformer for the arena went out. So
good timing.
Yeah.
All right, guys, so if you want to continue the conversation, as I like to say, let us know what you thought. Throw out another pay-per-view. Maybe if you want us to do this again, I'm sure we'd love to get it together, maybe do a podcast episode 81.5 or something like that. You can hit us up. I'm at FranticJ3. He is at Freakshow187, and we are at Frantic_Talks, along with our usually here but not podcast guest or host, Onyx Spartan, known by X Spartan as Grunt. You can hit us all up, let us know what you think, give us your 2 cents, maybe tweet some stuff you want us to talk about. Normally it's about gaming.
Tell Grunt he should start watching wrestling.
Force Grunt to start watch wrestling so we can join in on these commentaries. And yeah, that about does it. Head over to FranticTalks.com, get all the information you need in our footer, along with articles, podcasts, and the like. Remember, Monday is a podcast, Wednesday is a weekly column, and Friday is Wrestling Booking Simulator 2017, because I can't think of a better way to put it.
Part 2.
And yeah, that about does it for us, guys. So, like I said, let us know what you think. Anything else to add, Freak Show?
No.
All right, the WWE Network can be yours for $9.99 a month. I'm Frantic J3.
I am Freak Show.
And we'll see you guys next time.